All right, good morning, trade pros. Welcome to Morning Market Update for this Thursday, April the 9th of 2020. This is George from Trade Pro Academy. Hope you guys had a good sleep and good afternoon or good evening. Last sip of coffee. And I'm going to talk about a lot of things today. We got a really big morning market update, a lot of topics to go through. First and foremost, let's kick it off by saying this is the last trading day of the week. Tomorrow, all stock markets will be closed in observance of Good Friday for Easter. And so today is like a Friday. Tomorrow morning, all stock markets, all futures, all commodity futures, everything is closed, all right, in observance of this holiday. So let's put the last day in the books of this week. Let's have a great day and let's take advantage of the opportunity. In coronavirus news, Japan and Russia have a worrisome outbreak in new cases. Japan's surge in cases is a little bit interesting, because as soon as the Olympics were waived and announced that they'd be delayed until next year, the cases have suddenly surged. All right. Worldwide, there's more than 1.48 million cases confirmed and over 88,000 deaths worldwide, while in the U.S., there's over 430,000 with 14,000 deaths plus. And, the projection was that up to 100,000 Americans would die, which is a little aggressive. But Fauci's revised that to be 60,000, so there's less death expectation, which less worse is good, all right? In trading and markets land, less worse is good. I don't even know if that's a good grammatically correct sentence, but who cares? I'm an immigrant. I'm allowed to make these kind of mistakes. All right, so that's the coronavirus update. Interesting interview on CBS where Bill Gates said that no mass gatherings will be held until everyone's vaccinated. All right, and if you know the history on that and done some research, it's a pretty shocking public statement to make from Bill Gates of all people. But anywho, let's continue forward. This coronavirus thing is taking a toll on the economy. You wouldn't know it if you look at the market this week, but you would if you looked at the last couple week chart. U.S. apartment renters are not paying the rent. April 1st, the rent came due. We knew about that. And only 69% of tenants paid their rent, all right, between April 1st and 5th, which compares to 81% the week of March. It's not like 100% of people always pay their rent. There's always a natural delinquency rate, if you will, and 82 in April. So 80 tends to be the average. This is 69, so 11% less people based on a study of 13.4 million rental units. So you do the math, 10% of 13.4. All right, and that comes out of 1.34. That's simple math of new tenants who have not paid their rent. So this is putting some economic pressure as well on the economy. All right, FOMC meeting minutes yesterday. There isn't really much to go through. It was a pretty stale report because we already knew that since that they've had a lot of different initiatives launched. But there is an interesting part that I want to share with you. On the economic outlook, the Fed voting members said there's an extremely large degree of uncertainty on the outlook. All right, and in anticipation, this is the one part I found interesting. Several participants commented that banks should be discouraged from repurchasing shares or paying dividends to their equity holders in the wake of the proposed measures. And so it's interesting to see that we didn't know this until we heard banks announce we're pausing our buybacks, and we're also not going to be paying dividends. We're suspending them, especially the banks. And this is a cash situation, etc. But now we know this comes straight from the Fed. This is a very interesting statement made by the Fed. Indeed, you should read through the meeting minutes because from an economic standpoint, it's interesting to read. But there's no market impact. So let's glaze them over because I could spend an hour just breaking them down for you. So like I said, tomorrow stock markets are all closed. Today is the last day. There you go. We can see the people in our Trade Pro community are woke. They've read into this. And exactly, guys. I mean, I'm not repeating or saying anything, but it's just interesting, the world we're in. In Asia, Japan is flat. Hong Kong's up 1.38%. China up 0.3%. India up 3 whole percentage points. In Europe at midday, London's up 1.6. Paris is up 0.1%, flat almost. Frankfurt up 1%. And in the U.S., markets were down. They've regained all of their losses from yesterday's close, and now we are where we are. On Monday, April 6th, at the beginning of the week, you could go watch the morning market update if you don't believe me. My view back then was that we're gonna rally this entire week. Why? Because Easter's coming up. People are more jolly in Easter. People who have been cooped up and locked up in their homes for the last 4 weeks need something to be happy about. Right? Investors are no different. Investors are just humans that have a little bit of money to put into markets. Humans get excited. All right, and so we had a really bullish week, up 11% since Monday. Our view was buy this market until the end of the week because Easter's coming up. There's gonna be a nice little rally into it. Didn't expect 11% rally, but we did have a 2750 to 2800 target. I think we might get it this week. Just remember this: next week we're opening up some more opportunity for things to turn around. And the reason being is that we're going to start to see some earnings from companies that are going to be less than stellar. Some of them might actually be shockingly bad based on the numbers I'm seeing. All right. Looking at crude oil, it's up 5%, up to about 26.15 now at the moment. A little sell off on the OPEC plus. They just keep adding pluses to this. Is having a virtual meeting today. I wonder if it's going to be on Zoom. It's kind of hilarious that people are using Zoom because I've known Zoom's had some security issues for a long time, but I don't know if I had to do that top order of business if I'd be using Zoom in person, honestly, with you. But they're having a Zoom meeting, OPEC and OPEC producers at 4 p.m. Vienna time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern, top of the hour. OPEC is going to meet. Russia said yesterday it's willing to reduce by 1.6 million barrels a day. That was kind of huge. Market rallied off that. That caused a 6.2% increase in oil prices because Russia was the unknown variable. They're on board with an OPEC cut. So now the question is, what will the cut be like? Is it going to be 10 million barrels a day collectively or more? If so, that's kind of what the market's pricing in. Anything less, I think, will drop. Anything more will rally. And remember, as soon as the OPEC meeting's done, there's going to be a wave of selling of people who don't want to hold over the weekend. Right? People who bought the rumor are now selling the news. That's how oil works. So given that we're closed tomorrow, this is the last day for oil traders to make their moves after a 3-day absence of the markets. I would suggest if you have something that you don't want to hold, then you get rid of it. All right, it's 3 days coming up. If you took a day trade and now you like it and you want to get greedy and say, well, what if I could get another 30% next week? No, all right, that wasn't the point. You didn't want to get married to this one. All right, don't let her convince you. So that's kind of how the markets work. Or don't let him convince you. I don't know what you guys are into, who you're out there. We have some beautiful TRADEPRO fans as well. So that's the situation. That's OPEC. That's what I would do in this situation. I do have an oil trade that's longer term, and I hadn't priced in this OPEC meeting happening. Therefore, I'm not going to sell it just because it's happening. Gold is up this morning, up 1.1%. Bitcoin's up 0.25 percentage point. Today, we had a really important announcement at 8:30. It's initial jobless claims. There's two components to this. Many people don't realize how this works. Initial claims is for the current or the past week, the current one that we're in at the moment. How many people filed for unemployment? Continuing claims is how many people are continuing to claim. So they're not new filings or last week's filings, right? The net total is how many people are unemployed. So unemployment claims came out at 6.6 million this week. All right, the expectation was for 5.25. So more unemployment claims than expected, but still less than the prior week. All right, and less than the high range of 9.2 million expected. Last week we had 6.8. This week it's 6.6. So although it's a lot of unemployment claims, we already knew there were going to be a lot of unemployment claims. There's less than the prior week, less than the top end of forecast. All right, the continuing claims dropped, meaning some people came off of unemployment claims and went back to work. And therefore, that actually paints a positive picture. Not because it's great for the economy, but because it's better than it was last week. And better than worse is good. Remember, we started the whole morning market update with that. I can't stress that enough. How many traders don't understand that dynamic? But still, 17 million Americans have filed for unemployment in the past 3 weeks. So it's still a pretty spooky number, but it's not as spooky as it could be. Market's riding high, and ain't nothing going to stop it. I had a trade in the morning. We're trading at 27.15. Now we're up to 81. And so my day might very well be done. Depends on how much I want to force it. All right, producer price index this morning, 10 a.m. as well. Jerome Powell speaking. He's a voter, obviously. He's speaking on the economic update at the Brookings Institution in Washington via webinar. Wonder if he's zooming. 10 a.m. we have consumer sentiment. 10 a.m. wholesale trade as well. We got a busy day. All right, Jerome Powell speaking, OPEC conference at 10 a.m. and consumer sentiment. All right, you want to talk about a lot of economic events? That's a lot happening at 10 a.m. Busy day. 10:30 natural gas inventory and 4:30 money supply and Fed balance sheet. All right, that's what you got in front of you today. Remember, last day of the week for trading. Manage that risk. Decide if you want to hold positions over the weekend. Remember, it's 3 days. A lot can happen in those 3 days, and we're gearing up for a start of next week that'll have a lot of stock companies reporting earnings, including the big banks. That'll be interesting to see. All right, enjoy it. I think we got a little bit more upside. We might even crack 2,800 today. I love you guys. Be safe. Manage your risk. Trade pros. We'll see you next week. Remember, nothing tomorrow. I might pop in and say hello, do a quick little Q&A with you on YouTube. But it ain't going to be at 9 a.m. It'll be a little bit later on in the afternoon. All right, love you guys. Take care. Be safe out there. Ciao.